Shalom, family. This is Judah J, giving all praise to the Most High Yah in the name of His Son, Yahushua HaMashiach. There was a video that I saw today, January 20th, and it was, in my book, it was prophetical of the revealing of the children of Israel to the world. Just a precursor to the widespread revealing of the children of Israel. But as you will see in this video, it was made known that there was a person that was protesting, showing his religion, expressing his religious freedoms at the National Mall, and there was a European group of European students that were also at the mall, and they were, I guess, unhappy because the Israelites, as the newsman, as you will see in the video, which I'll show in a minute, the Israelites were saying that, of course, Jesus was not a white man and he was a black man. And what you saw in the video was a Native American man that was visibly in the face of a European student, and the European student was wearing a "Make America Great" hat again. So you can take that any way you want, but the European student was standing there, almost blocking, seeming like he was blocking the Native American man from getting through, and the Native American man was saying something to the European student, and the European student was not moving. And so it seemed like, and the European student was sort of had a smirk on his face. He was seemed like he was just standing up for something, but you just didn't know yet. Come to find out, the Native American man was actually praying, making a prayer for the situation to be resolved, for there to be peace brought to the situation. And the news anchor, the news anchor's name was Nathan Phillips, or I'm sorry, David Benad. He's a news anchor for CBSN, and he says that this story originally was not told right, because it made people believe that there was some sort of discrepancy or disturbance between the Native American man and the European students with the Make America Great hats on. But it actually wasn't. I guess there had been something else that happened prior to everything occurring, that was seen on TV, that started everything. And so I guess what happened was the European students were actually discriminating against people that were saying they were black Hebrew Israelites. They were cursing at the students, and they were saying all sorts of things that to infringe on these people's right to protest, the Israelites' rights to protest. I don't know why they decided that was the best course of action, is to not allow someone to exercise their religious freedoms and their right to speech, but that's what they were doing by making pretty much a blockade from them being able to reach the National Mall steps. So in this video, you will hear the European news anchor. This is sort of the beef that I have with this video as well. In the video, you see that the European news anchor makes an attempt to downplay the discriminatory actions of the European students against the black, quote-unquote, black Hebrew Israelites. But it's not black Hebrew Israelites. It's just Israelites, because the Negroes are the Israelites. And when you say black Hebrew Israelites, Hebrew is the language they spoke. So an Israelite speaks Hebrew. And of course, it's the original Hebrew is the Paleo Hebrew. But the Israelites were exercising their rights of freedom of religion and speech, but the European students who were wearing the Make America Great hats again were visibly angered by the Israelites' protest and began shouting obscenities at them. The Native American man that you will see in this video, in an act of true patriotism, decided to defend the black Hebrew Israelites' right of lawful protest by standing up to the European student mob, and in an act of true civility and humility, the man began to pray that the mob would back down in peace and give the Israelites the respect due to them. Now in the video, we see that a young European student in a visible act of mockery, smirking at the Native American man with his, Make America Great hat on. And as his cohorts, the rest of his friends, continue to chant obscenities at the Israelites and at a Native American man, as the Native American man is praying. So this is supposed to be a peaceful protest, a peaceful, exercise of your rights to speech and religious freedom. But these students did not feel like that's something that these people should have. They expressed it in their actions by not letting them cross and go to the steps. Next, we see the news anchor return, and he continued in his attempt to downplay the actions of the European students by justifying their blatant acts of discrimination and disrespect and mockery of the Israelites. The Native American man said that the European students were offended as the Israelites stated Christ was not a white man, but a black man, something that is completely in their right to do. But as you see in this brief video that I'll show, I'm going to show you of this incident. The man uses keywords. This is the anchor. Uses keywords and negation tactics to make it seem as though the European students make it seem as though their actions weren't as bad. He even tried to turn the attention away from the students' discriminatory actions and prosecute the Native American man by asking, what would you do to these students if it was up to you to punish them for what they have done here today? What would you do to the students? Now, what place does this question have, in this situation? If you think about it, these students are doing something that's wrong. These students are infringing upon someone else's rights. But we turn the whole narrative into what would you do to punish them? That man's not punishing anyone. They should be punished by the law. They shouldn't be punished by this man. So that man doesn't even have the authority to answer that. But so many times it seems as though people that have taken this position of power and authority, they've taken it themselves and assumed this power. They think that they have the right to sort of treat others like they have to give them something. Like, you have to explain to us everything. Like, you tell us what we want to know. It's not about what you've done. It's not about, this action that has happened is wrong and you are a part of it. It's about, let's turn it back on you. Forget what I've done. Let's turn this back on you. And, so many times we see that in this country. And right here is a great example of this. The Native American man was there. He was just praying for the situation to be resolved, and that these people would allow the Israelites to have their right to of religious freedom and speech. And so, this shouldn't have been anything other than an expose on the European radicals. Then they were radicals that decided to discriminate and disrespect the quote-unquote black Israelites, which we know and which you should know are not just black, they're Israelites. They're Negroes, which are the Israelites. Now, but like we've seen in so many times, the news media is ran by a specific group of people, and they will do whatever it takes to never accept blame for their actions. Not ever. Not ever. This video is alarming due to the actions of the European student mob against the black Israelites, who were just exercising their freedom of speech and religious freedoms. But it also leads to something much more revelatory. And that's the mainstream media's acknowledgement of the Negroes as Israelites. Now, you would say they're not really acknowledging them as Israelites, as we know it to be in Romans 9:26. In Romans 9:26, it says, "In the very place where it is said to them, 'You are not my people,' there they will be called the children of the living power," which is Yah. But it's not going that far yet. It's not going that far at all yet. But this is the mainstream media doing something that is a precursor to this very scripture taking place. This man made known that black people are claiming to be Israelites through the airwaves. And that's a huge thing. That's getting out there. So it's putting an idea in people saying, "Oh, what did he say? Black people? Israelites? Come on, black people aren't Israelites." You see what I'm saying? You must know that any story they don't want you to know will stay far away from the viewing public's ears. That's just the way it goes down. If they don't want you to know something that goes against their interest, it's not going to hit your ears. You're not going to get an opportunity to know anything about it, to be able to form an opinion. They would not shed light on anything that would sway your opinion or stimulate thought on a subject that goes against their own interest. And since we know the mainstream news media is bought and paid for by the satanic elite Jewish Zionists, then this really is an abnormality. Personally, I believe the prayers of true Israel, which are the Negroes, has made its way up to the Most High Yah. And his remnant, which are on the earth, are getting to a place in their spiritual walk with him that is bringing an end to this present satanic kingdom. But as we know, things will get worse before they get better. And like that woman who suffers birth pains before she delivers, true Israel shall experience Jacob's trouble on this earth before Yahushua HaMashiach returns to bring judgment and destruction upon its enemies and then rescue them. It is also my belief that there will soon be a new norm created in the news media. And that is the villainizing of the black Israelites, and by saying that they're a threat to society. I really believe that this story was not about the European discrimination against the people expressing their religious rights and their freedom of speech, and not about the Native American man that stood between the two. It wasn't about that. It was about making known to the world who the Israelites are, the black Israelites are. That's what this story, I believe, is really like. The underneath, the foundation of this thing. This is at the crux of it all, that they're not telling you. But that's what I believe their intentions are, is to make known who these black Israelites are, so they can begin their task of forming a false narrative of them being a cult and a threat to America. Now, I would be remiss to remind you all, that these things have been prophesied in the Bible to occur. So there's nothing we can do about it. As far as like, us doing something to change it physically and going and protesting and, all these other things. But the thing we can do, which is the most powerful thing, because in the Bible it says the weaponry of our warfare is not carnal, it's for the bringing down of strongholds. The thing we can do is to pray to the Most High for protection, continue reading his word for our strength, walking in love and forgiveness, and wait on him for our salvation. You do not follow the Most High Yah if you're doing evil. You can't claim to follow him if you're thinking about getting revenge on people or committing violence. Vengeance is his, and those that take that mantle upon themselves are not following the direction of the Most High Yah, but their own selfish, wicked desires. This is what they're following. So, I'm going to show you this video, and I'm just going to show it to you in its entirety, so that you can get your own, the context. I gave you what I believe, and I believe that it's, I'm not going to cut anything and pay. I'm just going to put it all out there for you, so you can see for yourself what happened, and just recognize. I would ask you to recognize how it seems like that news anchor is trying to take the blame off of or kind of like lessen the blame of these students, kind of trying to like give them a way out, kind of like making it seem more plausible for why they did what they did, and they were just offended by the whole Jesus being black, saying, the people making claims that Jesus is black, and and all this stuff, and just try to see this thing for what it really is. But the main thing I want you to see is how they made mention of these Israelites. And at the very end, when the news anchor says, he sums it up, he makes you know. It's like you will see it. You'll feel it. I think you'll be able to see it. Not feel it, but you'll be able to see what I'm talking about, hear what I'm talking about, how he makes it known. He says, the main thing you need to know is that this was between the students and the black Hebrew Israelites. It just seemed like it was more... He put more oomph on that. Like, this is something I want you to remember. So, the video's here. I will have more videos coming your way. I just want to give all praise to the Most High Yah, in the name of his son Yahushua HaMashiach, and enjoy.
If you've been anywhere near your social media this weekend, checking it on your phone, you may have seen a video that shows a group of high school students in what appears to be a standoff with a Native American man on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. The problem is the story, as originally reported, is incomplete. We have more information that provides better context and depth to what actually happened. Here's the original clip that most people saw. Take a look. So this all went down Friday in Washington, D.C. The Indigenous Peoples March coincided with the March for Life. That is an anti-abortion rally. A group of students from a Catholic high school in Kentucky was at the March for Life. Some of the students were wearing hats that said, "Make America Great Again." One teenager in particular, you see him there, was seen standing in the video just feet away from a man named Nathan Phillips. That is the Native American man, Mr. Phillips, banging on a drum and chanting a prayer. The problem is this video inflamed people who said how disrespectful of this young man and the students. There was a report that the students were chanting "Build the Wall." The problem is there is another video, nearly 2 hours in length, most of which we have seen. And the context it provides suggests that the story is not as originally reported. We never heard the students saying, "Build that wall." What we heard was a chant among the students that appeared to be a sports chant, right? High school students chanting as they were standing in front of this man who was beating his drum. The problem is, here's how it started. The larger video shows a group of protesters known as the Black Hebrew Israelites. They were protesting on the National Mall. At some point, they start yelling profanities at the high school students who were wearing the "Make America Great Again" hats. This went on for an extended period of time. At one point, Mr. Phillips walks into the middle of the group, inserts himself in the situation, and as he later told us, he was trying to diffuse the situation. We wanted to talk to the students, the parents, but also Mr. Phillips. We were able to get Mr. Phillips on the phone, and here's some of what he told us. Tell me, Mr. Phillips, how did you come in contact with that young man? Where were you when you encountered him in that moment? Were you leaving? Were you coming?
What it started out with is these young students weren't really aggressive towards the indigenous people. They were there, they seen us, they had their, it was a thing, but their focus was on 4 black individuals. And when I put myself between that mass and the 4 black individuals, that's where I was at. And that's when I was singing, that's where that prayer, that movement of prayer put me.
Tell me what you mean about the 4 black individuals. How were they a factor in this?
Oh, so at the beginning of all of this, as we were breaking down, there was these individuals there that were doing free speech exercise out there on the mall.
And what were they saying?
They were quoting Bible verses. They were saying things like what really got the first incident I witnessed was the one individual said, "Jesus is not white, he's black like me." And one of the young kids that was standing there looking there with the red hat on, he looked really offended. But he took offense. They went away, came back with twice the number, maybe 12, 15 people, and they pawned back and forth between these black Israelites and the MAGA hat wearers.
So,
and
Mr. Phillips,
yeah.
I want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly. There were the individuals who were black, who were making statements about Jesus not being white, and then there were the demonstrators who were white, and they're the ones who were sort of getting into it, and you stepped in the middle. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're called the Lost Tribe of Israel.
Okay.
When this was happening, it took a while from the first incident to the point where there was over 100, maybe 200 of these Life Matter marchers. So they're there, and that's when things started getting really ugly.
Did you say anything to him?
No, I was singing, I was praying, I stayed in prayer.
Did he ever say anything to you?
No, he didn't say nothing. He just stood in front of me, and when the others were moving aside and letting me go, he decided that he wasn't going to do that. You know, I tried to, when I was coming up the steps, I seen him start putting himself in front of me, so I slided to the right, and he slided to the right. I slided to the left, and he slided to the left. So by the time I got up to him, we were right in front of him. He just positioned himself and made sure that he aligned himself with me, so he stopped my exit.
How long did this last?
Well, from the time I found myself in front of that crowd with the drum and the song, and I was singing, to the time I was in front of him, maybe three minutes.
And how did it end?
Singing.
Who separated you guys?
It ended with all those students just leaving, kind of like in a mass. At the last minute, they all left. The boy, he, you know, there was a couple moments in there that I thought he was going to break down.
I wonder what you want to happen to that young man.
That young man, I wouldn't want to see nothing, you know, happen to him. I don't wake up trying to, you know, setting out to hurt nobody ever. You know, I wake up in the mornings, I say my prayers. What can I do to make a better world? You know, that's how I start my day.
So you don't want him to be expelled or suspended or disciplined?
That's, you know, I think the one who should be punished are the supervisors of those schools, the ones who brought them to Washington, D.C. to allow those youth to behave that way. There should have been an adult there responsible to tell them this is a wrong behavior. You know, and that's, you know, how did it come to be me being there to stand between youth and Americans who were exercising their right to freedom of speech, freedom of religion.
That young man is going to go back to school in Kentucky. He'll be disciplined, no doubtedly. If you were to look him in the face again, what would you tell him?
To live a good life and treat people with respect and treat himself with respect, to forgive himself, you know, to forgive others, treat each other with, you know, treat others the way he wanted to be treated, you know.
To forgive himself. That is a very powerful statement coming from you, Mr. Phillips. Nathan Phillips, thank you for your time.
You bet.
Again, it's important to add the original story was incomplete. Now we hope you have more context. The school is saying that the students could be disciplined, possibly even expelled. But the video, as we've seen it, shows Mr. Phillips walking into the group, inserting himself, trying to defuse the situation between the students and the black Hebrew Israelites. And more notably, Mr. Phillips says that that young man standing right in front of him should actually forgive himself. Mr. Phillips never once said he thought the kids should be punished. In fact, he thinks the adults are to blame for not stepping in sooner.